Good afternoon and welcome to this special session on promoting domestic uh, manufacturing ecosystem for the appliance industry in India, perspectives from the India Cooling Action Plan and Make in India. At the very outset, I wish to record my sincere thanks to our platinum sponsor Danfoss, gold sponsor The Breathe, and silver sponsors Saint Gobain and Smart Jewels for making feed possible. In terms of general housekeeping, we will open the floor for Q&A in the last 10 minutes. So please keep sending in your questions through the chat box on the right side of your screens. In terms of the run of the show, we'll first hear from the session chair, following which our colleague from AEEE will do a little bit of context setting, and this will be followed by the executive dialogue. So without any further ado, I wish to introduce our session chair, Mr. Mayur Karmakar, MD, International Copper Association. Mr. Karmakar oversees institutional and program strategies, approval of new lines of work, and is responsible for ICA's sustainable energy and electrical safety programs. He advances ICA's mission to promote the use of copper as an essential element for sustainable development. The context setting will be done by Mr. Tarun Garg, Program Lead for Buildings and Communities at Alliance for an Energy Efficient Economy, AEEE. Mr. Garg has extensive experience in leading and managing projects in India, Asia, and Africa in the buildings sector, climate friendly cooling, smart cities, and standards and labeling of appliances. He is a B certified energy auditor and a CMVP professional. Our executive speakers include Mr. Madhur Sehgal, Head of Climate Solutions Sales, Danfoss Industries Private Limited. Mr. Sehgal is responsible for all India sales of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning and refrigeration components to OEMs and the wholesaler channel. He has 22 years of sales and marketing, product management, and channel management experience. And last but by no means the least, Mr. M.K. Mehta, Director, Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Trades Association Limited. Mr. Mehta has been in the trading business of copper tubes since 2001. He serves as Managing Director of Mercure Metals and Alloys Private Limited and is the Vice President of the Bombay Metal Exchange Limited. Thank you very much for joining in. I will now sort of invite Mr. Karmakar for his opening remarks. So,
Thanks, Akash. Am I audible?
yes, very well.
Thank you. So today's session is about promoting domestic manufacturing ecosystem for the appliance industry in India, particularly from the India Cooling Action Plan perspective. When we talk about the Indian appliance and consumer electronic market, it's more than 80,000 crore in this year. The consumer product largely is one of the highest growth rate product, uh, particularly during the COVID time. The other markets were relatively low, but if you see at the growth rate, or I would say that little less negative growth compared to other products, other markets has grown more negative than the appliances, largely because everybody was working from home. Now, if you see within the cooling products, the fan is the most common product which has reached to the maturity. The fans annual sales has gone up more than like 90 million fans per year. And it's a very robust and very stable demand. And now the technology is changing in fans. So I believe there will be a churn happening and it will see a new demand driver as a technology. Particularly within the aircon product, if you see the this year's estimated demand is somewhere around 7.5 million units, which is the room air conditioner. And by 2030, as per the recent study we have done in-house, we expect that growth to go around 18 million per annum. Now, 18 million is a big number. Just to have a perspective, right? The China is tapering, the domestic demand for the room air conditioner during the peak years. That demand has grown up 60 million units. Now they are somewhere around 44, 45 million units. Southeast Asia is another market where we see the growth more stable, like India. But growth rate is much lower compared to India because Southeast Asia has the fastest growing market and also relatively weaker growing market. Today, the air conditioner has reached around 7 to 8 units per percent per household of the penetration, and we estimate that it's going somewhere around 25% by the year 2030. The When we talk about the air conditioner and the cooling, the energy consumption is the another important attribute. Now, imagine if the per household air conditioner penetration increased 25, the current per capita energy consumption, particularly for cooling, as per the one of the IE and even the IEEE report, is around 70 units per house per capita unit consumption for cooling. Now, aircon is going to add that in multiple dimension, create a multiple energy dimension. The urban peak loads will be largely happening due to aircon cooling, largely in the afternoon. So the industry is growing, and with that growth, there is a challenge related to energy and the energy management. Now, if you see the overall domestic production of the industry, as per the Motilal Oswal's analysis report, the 50% is still a value add comes out of overseas, which is import. So most of the components are imported still, and that value addition is somewhere around 50%. If you see what are the policy tools which are available in terms of making all aircon in India, we definitely got Make in India policy. The Make in India policy initiative, which was largely managed by DPIIT, which is Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The policy objective is to make everything in India, and ultimately India becoming the export hub for tomorrow's global demand. So localization of manufacturing of this component is the key going forward. So the currently, if you see on the Make in India and the context with respect to how the domestic trade is being promoted, the increase in customs duty to 10% is somehow going to create a benefit to protect the domestic manufacturing and domestic demand. On the other hand, for component, particularly the industry where we come from, we are largely affected by the FTIs and then the duty-free import, for which we have the extreme learned panel member to talk about more. We also have PLI scheme announced last year. That was November 2020. The PLI scheme has created the investment of around 4,600 crores, which is a quite huge investment in the white good atom. And mostly this investment was there in air conditioner. But today we have to discuss, is that enough or we need more investments to come in? When we see the MSME and the industrialization, the job creation is the most important thing. And there is an unleashed potential of at least 5 lakh jobs if we have 100% done in India. Uh, we also have the environmental issue managed through the energy efficiency regulation and policy, and then the ICAP is going to have a larger impact. We will have a transition of the greener towards the greener refrigerant, for which Tarun will talk more. Particularly in terms of challenges, the domestic industry is seeing a continuous challenges. The cumulative domestic value add, which is to the only 50% level, this can be improved through a sustained effort from the industry. And with uh, the demand stimulus, particularly here, I want to bring in a point like you have there is a scrapping policy for the automotive industry. Now, why cannot be such scrapping policy for the air conditioner, which is moving transitioning towards the more energy efficient, lower GWP refrigerant, and have the market transformation done faster? Now, to support that, what is the R&D framework we have? If we see the total R&D framework currently, what we have gone in India and overall global or even the Indian cooling challenge, we still have the larger R&D base, need the R&D base, and this R&D base largely has to be done on a consultative basis. Particularly when I was doing this program, similar thing in China. In China, the industry alliance is the most stronger vehicle for having the collaborative R&D, wherein I saw a very good culture of the larger OEM comes together, discuss the problem, they engage academia, and then find the solutions to the problem, and then absorb these new technologies in their own plants, making the product more and more efficient. So the consultative or basically the cohesive forces with the like-minded organization, together with the institution and the government, will create a larger synergies while addressing the environmental challenges, particularly the energy challenges coming out of the out of particularly the cooling demand growth happening forward. Now, today in our panel, we have executive speakers. They will discuss this problem in detail. We have Tarun. He will talk. He will put the context in terms of the ICAP, which is the Indian Cooling Action Plan. So over to you, Tarun. Hello. It seems Tarun has got a technical problem here. So, Tarun, you are still not audible.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible now. We can hear you.
Okay, okay, fine.
Sorry, Tarun.
Sorry at my end. I don't know. It was checked. I, anyways. Uh, so I think my voice is clear now. So thank you so much, Mayur, for giving the background on the importance. And then in this my talk, I'll cover India Cooling Action Plan, which was launched in 2019 by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and some of the recommendations and how India Cooling Action Plan is aligned with PLI scheme and Make in India initiative. So just to give you a background, India Cooling Action Plan has defined long-term vision on cooling for India, including goals such as reduction of cooling demand across sectors by 25% by year 2037-38, almost 17 years from now. A reduction of refrigerant demand by 25 to 30% by year 2037-38, and reduction of cooling energy requirements by 25% to 40% by year 2037-38. So almost, we are looking at a major reduction in the form of cooling demand, refrigerant demand, as well as energy consumption in the next 17, 18 years. And some of those recommendations relevant to the topic which we are discussing in this session are which are focusing on technology as well as policies, are integration of energy efficiency and refrigerant transitioning efforts by promoting the development of new low GWP refrigerants, then ratcheting up minimum energy performance standards for room ACs while ensuring their affordability. So this is again a very important recommendation highlighting the need for improving energy efficiency of our room air conditioners, enhancing the use of natural refrigerants like R290, R717 ammonia, and then R744, which is CO2, which is again very important from a climate change perspective. Then applied research for energy efficient cooling technologies, including compressors, heat exchangers, pumps, electrical motors, controls, and bench production of refrigerants. So I think this again highlights the importance of you looking at different components which are being used in ACs or different appliances. Then exploring the development of materials, including copper, aluminum, with the refrigerant. So ICAP also public procurement guidelines for energy efficient room air conditioners, chillers, or fans. So I think this will again go a long way in creating and sustaining market for, I would say, energy efficient appliances in India, and how it is aligned with the with PLI. So PLI scheme entails incentives for incremental sales of domestically produced white goods, including RACs. PLI also encourages investment in high value and low value intermediaries of air conditioners, such as compressors, copper tube, motors, heat exchanger. Now, within this incentive, which is already in place, the policy not only promotes domestic manufacturing of room air conditioners, but it and its components, but it also promotes the transition to new generation refrigerants that are cleaner, locally made, and are compatible with indigenous manufactured products. Further, it will also promote the domestic players to undertake research and innovation, thinking to integrate materials such as copper tubes, aluminum fins, etc. This will also lead to the development of indigenously designed, more efficient versions of room air conditioners that use less energy and also lower emissions from the cooling sector, which is very well aligned with the ICAP recommendations on improving energy efficiency as well as lowering down emissions through refrigerant use in room air conditioners. This is how PLI scheme can be linked with India Cooling Action Plan. And moving on to the Make in India. So, we all know Make in India is a major policy right now in India, and to pursue self-reliance and promote Make in India, Government of India has hiked import duties on finished consumer goods, including RACs, that is from 10% to 20%, and they have also levied quality control measures to regulate the volume of imports. It is a welcome step for a country like India. This has been further reinforced in India Cooling Action Plan through the recommendation on developing a national research and development institutional framework for low GWP refrigerants and room air conditioning equipment to make India a hub for manufacturing of energy efficient and low energy cooling solutions and low GWP alternative refrigerants and technologies. So in a way, ICAP, when ICAP was developed, and IEEE played a very crucial role in 2018, and we I would say we wrote and acted as project management unit to the ministry for space cooling, including buildings and appliances, as well as for the cold chain. So what ICAP does is it is not something which is creating new policies or new schemes around energy efficiency or climate change or environment. It is simply aligning with what is there in the form of policies or initiatives or schemes, and aligning it with the sustainable development, which is focusing on cooling. So we have discussed Make in India and we have discussed PLI, but ICAP is looking at all the major policies in a holistic manner, and I would say this is a one-stop place where you will find how different policies can come together from creating and sustaining market for energy efficient and sustainable cooling in India. So I'll stop here, Mayur, and over to you.
Crucial policy or the initiative which can change the rules for the aircon industry in future. Now to discuss further, we got an executive speaker. So I will have few questions for the executive speaker. I would like to introduce Mr. Daljit Singh here. Daljit Singh is, a man behind the Amber Group. Umber Enterprises is actually a rock star on the stock exchange at the moment, and particularly Umber is a backbone for the Indian aircon industry. Whosoever is in aircon industry knows Umber Enterprises. They are basically a solution provider for the air conditioning OEM and ODM, that is original design manufacture industry, and they have definitely many contributions to the Indian aircon industry because they are one of the largest supplier for the components. Sorry, I mean earlier we missed the introduction for Mr. Daljit Singh. Sorry for that. So to begin with, I have the first question to Mr. Madhu Sehgal here. Mr. Madhu Sehgal is the Danfoss, representative. He is head for the climate solution sales, and Danfoss is the world leader when it comes to the air conditioning, refrigeration, or even the cooling action plans done internationally. They are a very active partner for the UN environment programs and other global programs. So over to you, sir, Mr. Madhu Sehgal. Can you tell us a bit about the Danfoss initiative for promoting the innovations in the cooling appliance industry?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayur, for the nice introduction, and good afternoon to all the fellow panelists and the industry colleagues who have joined online. Just to give you a little background first, at Danfoss, our focus is to take energy efficiency to the next level. We are involved in the manufacturing and sales of key components like compressors, drives, electromechanical controls, heat exchangers, and EC plus fans for various HVAC and refrigeration applications. We are at the center stage of providing comfort, food safety, and process optimization. The only segments where we are not present are residential air conditioners and household refrigerators. So I will not touch on that. But you will find Danfoss components at your service in many applications like commercial air conditioning, chillers for comfort cooling and process industry, cold rooms, cold storages, transport air conditioning and refrigeration, and specialty cooling like data centers. So, talking about the initiatives, yes, our first focus has been on building the foundation, and we started with R&D setup. That was the key thought process which we brought in, and in 2014 we started the setup at Chennai for compressors, controls, drives, and electronics. So that was the setup which we brought in India to really fuel the growth in India. Along with that, we also started focusing on an application development center because we are ultimately a component supplier. And if we really want our components to work very well in our customers' appliances, they need to be tested. And this is where we started providing support to the industry in the development of new applications. With pride, I can say that we are the first ones to bring the variable speed in the commercial air conditioning and chiller segment. Today, you know that because of the labeling program, room ACs are with inverters. But when it comes to the commercial air conditioning and chillers, we really worked very closely with our customers and brought variable speed into the Indian market. Important thing is that we are making the market get ready for the future, because we know very well that in future it will be driven by different energy efficiency labeling programs. Along with that, when it comes to variable speed, we need drives to run the systems. So that was our next step. We started production of drives in India, which are very, very integral to promoting the variable speed in the Indian market. And that is where we have started focusing on for the future as well. As I mentioned about the R&D center, so yes, people are very integral to the growth of the industry. We know that this is the fastest growing industry in India, and we clearly see a challenge of talent. So what we did is that we started focusing on four engineering colleges, and under a program called University Engagement Program, we started tying up with them to really fuel the future talent pipeline. What we did is we had set up the training centers in those colleges, which will really help us build the future talent, which can really help us in the industry going forward. One of the focus areas for us is the large cold storage market. And for that, what we did is we started focusing on an ammonia test lab. Using that test lab, we have been able to showcase to the customers that how we can bring more automation, which can help in improving the efficiency as well as human safety. If we look at our next focus areas, we are clearly looking at electrical vehicle space. You see a lot of activity is going in the electrical vehicle space. Uh, you, I think you also mentioned about residential air conditioning, and that will be our next focus area. And the last important focus area for us in the future will be data center cooling, which you know is really going to fuel the digital growth of this country. So these are the key initiatives which we have taken in the last few years to really promote innovation in the cooling appliance industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the key message is that the R&D was the foundation for the Indian operations in Danfoss.
Yeah.
So next question is, what are the prospects for the industry to be the self-reliant and serve the export market in the coming year in India from the Danfoss perspective?
Yeah, thank you very much. So if we look at I think what I see is that the future is really bright when it comes to the industry becoming self-reliant. And there, I think some of the initiatives of Government of India are really helping us. Uh, the standards on different products are playing a very, very major role. Today, you know that Bureau of Indian Standards is working with the industry very closely. We are also partnering with BIS to support the standards development. Uh, the compressor standard was the first one to release in 2018, and now subsequently, a lot of appliance standards have already been released. Room AC was always there, and with certain modifications, now we see room air conditioning standard building the foundation. But we also see a lot of other standards like which are in the making right now. The deep freezer standard, the variable speed standard. Then we also have the VRF standard coming up, and in the future we will also see commercial air conditioning standard will be in the system. And we also have a lot of component standards like electronic expansion valve, thermostatic expansion valve, and many other components. So what we believe is that these standards will really will be a backbone of the Indian industry. And with these standards, we can really look at the future growth of the industry, because people will start focusing on improving their product quality. Along with these standards, we also see the initiative of DPIIT, which is the initiative is called QCO, the Quality Control Order. We also strongly believe that the quality control order will bring in a strong quality culture across the industry. And once we are able to build up such a high quality product, I think we are ready for the world. Labeling programs. I think if we look at the labeling programs which the has is working on along with the manufacturers, the labeling programs of India are very, very stringent, and they are really helping the Indian manufacturers compete with the world today. The room AC labeling program has set the guidelines, and it has taken many rounds of iterations. And now today we see the Indian air conditioners are far, far ahead in quality and energy efficiency compared to the world. Similar is going to happen with the other products as well, and that is where we see a big, big growth area coming up. Last important point will be the refrigerant transition. I think Tarun touched upon that topic of refrigerant transition. Today we are in the Article 5 countries, and when we look at our refrigerant changeover program, it is probably the last. But what we can do here is we can start looking at what the global requirements are. And I think many of the manufacturers and many of the applications in India are already using the refrigerants of the future. Like for example, in room AC, R32 is already there. So if R32 also gets into the other applications, then we are clearly ready to serve the global market. So these are some of the thought process which I have, which I can say with pride that yes, which will really help us to become self-reliant.
Thanks, Madhurji. So you said the standards has a pivotal role to play when it goes to have more self-reliant to make the industry aware about the standards and organize the industry to produce the good as per the standards. Thanks.
Thank you very
Now
much.
let's move to Mr. Daljit Singh. Mr. Daljit Singh has been the backbone at the component level for the room air conditioner product, and he is indirectly and directly participating in various activity, industry wide activity. So question to you, sir, the what are the potential markets for the backward integration industry like you, and what are the key measures to promote technology and skill through because your industry becomes really like the spreader of the technology. If you do it, then 10 brands in India will do it. So how you see, going forward, the potential overall for this?
So, firstly, thank you very much, Mayur, for having me over here, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I really thank AE for organizing this much needed program for promoting domestic manufacturing ecosystem. And I believe this is the right time that we deliberate the way forward to achieve the goal of making in India a global hub for electronic component manufacturing and especially appliances. Visionary policies like Make in India, NP, PLI, SPECS, PMP, EMC, and many more have already been rolled out a red carpet for world manufacturers to navigate toward India. To reduce dependency on import, significant progress has already been achieved on the sub-assembly level, and efforts are now being made to accelerate the localization of the components. The need of an hour, obviously, is to have a vigorous engagement with the stakeholders from various supply chains to develop and component ecosystem. And like you rightly said, one of the most important need of an hour is technology and the skill. If India has to be on the top of the globe value chain, then investments in innovation and technology is must. While the manufacturing need to be investing in R&D, the government needs to come up with concrete and favorable policies to measure the support of the same. Today, every almost every brand is there in India, but out of ocean of the so many brands, let's understand how much spend on R&D and technology is happening. I think so that is almost near to minuscule, and that should be increasing. and government should give more support over here so as to actually increase the spend on technology. Government should make actually mandatory for to set up the R&D plants and inculcate an era of design and design led manufacturing over here. Skilling is a major challenge again when it comes to manufacturing appliance. It's I would say not very manpower dependent, but still there is a lot of manpower which is employed in the appliance industry, and finding the right skill set is always a challenge. The availability of skilled workforce, be it on assembly line, be it in the sub shops, is always a challenge, and it's a complete scarce today. There is a scarcity of the right skill set over here. The sector skill councils have a major role, I would say, to play over here, and industry and the sector skill council need to come together to ensure that the right skills are actually first of all created, and then obviously they are absorbed also. So there is a need to bring a change in a curriculum, course curriculum of the students at the really basic level. Today, if you see what kind of skills which are available in the industry, while at the same time what is the curriculum being taught, I think so there is a lot of still a delta available over there which need to be bridged together with the skill councils, with the curriculum, and as well as the industry leaders. So as a company, we provide a lot of on job training opportunities to new candidates to absorb them as well. We literally work with a lot of skill development programs, work at the local levels, at the ITI levels also, so as to create. But I would say that industry and the skill council and the government, Ministry of Education, must come together in order to bring the right curriculum so as the need of an hour, which is the right skill set availability, is there. And this is a biggest, I would say, one of the detrimentals in our industry. If the right skills are not available uh, to in order to grow for this industry to be at the globe level, this will be a biggest detrimental. And we as industry should definitely come together and address this issue of both technology and skill. Thank you.
Thank you, Baljeet ji. I have one follow-up question there. Particularly, you see the entire white good and appliance industry development happening in, for example, in Korea or even in China. It started with the OEM, then ODM, and then they established the brands. And particularly in Indian market, you have the brands, but now they are reinforcing on the manufacturing. So at what phase the R&D is necessary? Because when I visited one of the largest Korean white good appliance manufacturing company, they got 50,000 doctorates working there in the R&D setup. It's a very massive R&D. They are one of the global giant in the white good. Now moving from the current situation towards that sort of the huge R&D setup, what sort of the collaborations and partnership you think are necessary, and what could be the role for the government here?
So if you look into it, you are right that in the global giants which are present in India today, I mean, have not invested that much in India, and they are now we are seeing that global giants have started taking India seriously, and a lot of investments in R&D is happening, have started to happen over here, but not at the scale like what you're talking about, 50,000 R&D people over here. But yes, that is the need of an hour as we move forward, because India is a very different environment over here, and we need to develop products and appliances which are made for India and suitable for India, and of course made for world from India also. And being the big knowledge hub available over here, I think so if we use these skills as well as the knowledge hub available, we can actually convert a great lot into and create a bigger R&D houses over here. For that, I think so government should definitely come in and promote R&D, and government should give incentives and encourage for the brands, for the OEMs, for the ODMs to actually start doing investments not only at the finished good level but also at the component level also. The R&D at the component level is totally missing today in the appliance segment in India. It is more about designs coming from the international level and then just manufacturing over here. So I feel that government should come at the should encourage all the brands as well as OEMs and manufacturers to set up the R&Ds and do the complete R&D over there in conjunction with the universities. Like, there are multiple universities and there are good institutions in India. We must hone them, all of them together, along with the industry, and see how we can actually design and make it for India and for world, and specific, looking into the energy efficiency and looking into the way the per capita income is increasing and the way the appliance consumption would be increasing as we move forward. It would be a need of an hour to have energy efficient and super energy efficient products. And the only way we can do that is if we bring institutions, the brands, the manufacturers, and the government bodies together.
Thank you very much. Now, our next executive speaker is Mr. M.K. Mehta, Mahendra Bhai. Mahendra Mehta, I have few questions. I mean, we started from the component largely on a control thermostats. We went into sub-assemblies, and particularly you coming from the metal industry. Uh, the first question to you is that what are the trends and policy initiative for expanding the indigenous development of the components which are currently imported from Southeast Asia for different reasons. So, how do you see what policy initiatives are necessary there to make in India happen really?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you everyone for inviting me on this forum, and I would like to say that we have been representing RATA, BME also, and Bombay Metal Exchange Limited also. We have been representing government since the last almost 6 years to 6 to 7 years, mainly because the copper tube or the aluminum industry are so much discouraged due to such trade policy which came up due to free trade agreements which India has signed with ASEAN countries and Malaysia and Thailand. What is happening in this free trade agreement is the finished products such as copper tubes or aluminum foil, which are the main raw material content for any air conditioning industry, they are allowed to import at duty free, whereas the raw material is still dutiable. So we have been a victim of inverted duty structure, which resulted in closure of almost like 50% of industry in last 6 to 7 years. We made several representation to government, okay, this is really not fair, that how can you allow duty free import, or you should allow our raw material which is virgin copper or copper scrap to be duty free, so that there is a level playing field with Indian manufacturers also. So finally, finally before 1 year, they have understood our matter, and our matter is in the investigation with DGTR, which is called as Director General of Trade Remedy, which comes under Ministry of Commerce. So they have understood our matter. Yes, there has been a serious problem due to which is hampering the growth of copper tube production and aluminum foil production in India. When we see the market, 90% of these raw materials are imported into India. Of course, the government has come up with the PLI scheme. When they saw so much amount of import coming into India, they are encouraging us by investing and I mean, these two products are covered under PLI. But the another problem is that we were the first to welcome this PLI program. Uh, but on the other end, there is a discouraged trade policy where the viability doesn't come. So still we are representing our government. We have been discussing with many of the agencies also. They have also understood. I discussed this with AEEE also. They are also represent closely, helping us in representing the same to the ministry. And I hope that okay, the market which is growing, ACR market, which is growing at almost like 10 to 15% every year, the growth of these metals should be aligned with this growth. But on the other hand, when we see such discouraged trade policy, we have to we everyone of us need to come together and understand that these products should be locally available, because import has their own demerits. When you understand that when you are heavily dependent on import, in the last 2 years, I mean, we have been closely associated with many of the OEMs and brands in India. uh, these import disruption has been not really helpful in the progress for the value chain of air conditioning industry. So let's hope. We are positive enough that we will be getting some favorable decisions from the government, and soon after we will be the first one to come up with a highly technologically advanced manufacturing plant for copper and aluminium.
Thanks, Mahendrabhai. Now, Mahendrabhai, the question to you with you have to change the hat. Now you have to wear the Rata hat.
Mhm.
Daljit Singh has raised a question about the skill, and
Yeah.
his suggestion was largely with respect to the how we can impart the skill, what will be the role of the government training curriculums, and also there is a larger, as a you are the Rata, which is the trade association, you are delivering that skill for the maintenance and the installation of these air conditioner.
Yeah.
So, what is the Rata's role overall to make the to basically e- employ the right skill and create the market for right skill? Because at the moment, if you see the aircon services today done by the OEMs through their authorized network, who are trained. These people are trained by the OEM. But after that, there is a very unorganized, such maintenance or the repair guys for the air conditioners. And when you look at the any consumer product, the story is similar. So, what do you think will be the RATA's responsibility in making these unorganized sector impart the skill to them?
Yeah, obviously feel that, as you rightly said, this is a very fragmented and unorganized members which we are representing through. As Daljit ji had rightly said, that we need to deploy the training centers, geographically also, where is it possible with the help of OEMs. Not only they should come up with the service center, but they should be dedicated technical centers in states, in 3 tier or 4 tier cities, which would really help them and train them. Because many a times what we feel is that the after sales market or the service market is have their own challenges due to the low uh, reach with the with the technology or with the training. So if there is a dedicated skill center which can be, with the help of Rata or Rama, we can develop in 3 tier, 4 tier, 5 tier city, it will really help.
So, is there any RATA thinking of certification program for them so that the skill there is a market for the skill, work maintenance guys? Because we have a problem. People they on the job they find imparting the skill is the investment of from their side in time and money, where they don't find much return. Uh, we have the similar problem for the motor rewinding in the industries, and we have started the activities together with CII, wherein we can create the market for the certified, the rewinders, the motor rewinders. So, from Rata perspective, do you think that such initiatives are possible?
Yeah, of course, there is a possibility, and it would be a welcome step for everyone, because many a times, due to the low maintenance or the low technology issue, there are the possibilities that it will always boost. Uh, I mean, the boost the those fragmented in industry. So
Thanks.
we as a Rata, or the other council, we can think about these steps. How we can deploy the service and training center, which can provide the efficient training to these all service guys or the contractors, or how to install uh, in the on the international way.
Thanks, Mahendra Bhai. Now it's a rapid fire round for each one of you. What is the most important two things you think are necessary from promoting the domestic manufacturing ecosystem, particularly at the component level for the appliances in India? We will start with Mr. Daljit ji. What are top two things you think are necessary?
So I think so. As per me, of course, one is finding the right skill set, and another is R&D of the components. So, that are the two important parts for any be it even if you go into automotive, that was the key basically for any industry to become global. And similarly is in appliance, if you have the right skill set, right training programs, right people for service, at the same time you are backed by the strong R&D, I think so we are good to go.
Thanks. Uh, Madhurji, what do you think are the top two bullets for you?
Yeah, I think if we look at the controls business, I think when it comes to the Indian industry, we also need to look into the fact that what are the tax benefits which are specifically for this industry, because uh, if we look at the schemes which we are having today, probably they are good to go for the larger industry, but I think there we see a challenge. So that could be one of the areas where I believe that will improve the ecosystem on the control side. And another thing, what we also see is that we are also looking at I think I agree with Daljit ji on the skill set, because that is an area which I believe, because a lot of R&D is required to really develop India for India products, because we can't keep on bringing the products from outside India and then keep on promoting in India. A lot of focus has to be on India for India.
Okay, so indigenization of products based on the Indian customer habit as well as the ambient condition is the key part to the Indian R&D setup.
Yeah.
Thanks. Mahendraji, what are the top two things for you?
So first of all, PLI is of course the best of the thing what government has come up. I mean done till now for the air conditioning sector. But again, on the other side, I mean first of all is to realigning the unfavorable policies what have been done, what has been done. As Mr. Daljit ji, we will be also knowing that the main content of air conditioning such as copper and aluminum, they will be also be depending on heavily on imports, and we have seen the problem associated with total dependency on imports also. So there is a need of localization of these such manufacturing of such products, but that will be done by realigning those policies. Not we don't we are not asking any favor from the government, but we have just asked for a level playing field, which otherwise India market is capable enough for growing and even exporting.
Thanks. So the fair enough. So we have got certain questions. So we can definitely have a Q&A sessions open for answering some of them. So the first question which we have uh, is the okay. What are the alternative cooling solutions tried by Danfoss, or still focusing on the variable speed drive, that is VCRs,
No,
and
I think
also
maybe I can answer that, because I think this is about vapor compression refrigeration system. I
correct.
think that is what the person is asking. So yes, largely our systems are focusing on the vapor compression refrigeration systems, and uh, today obviously we are not looking at any major changes on the strategy side to develop any alternate cooling solutions. But what we are doing right now is, if we look at some of the bigger systems, especially the chillers, our focus is on the oil-free magnetic compressors. So that is the focus which we have started building in, and the current range is available from 90 tons to 200 tons. But the next step, what we are taking is coming down. So we are actually coming down in the capacities so that we can address a much larger market. So the next step is to come down to around 15 to 50 tons. So that is the area we are focusing on. And the second part of the question is about the alternate refrigerants. So I will split this question into two parts: the air conditioning and the refrigeration side. On air conditioning, in the commercial AC systems, we have already developed the solutions for R32, which is a mainstay refrigerant today in the room AC segment. And we also have developed solutions for all the future refrigerants. Like, if you look at from a controls perspective, we are ready with even hydrocarbons like R290, R600A. And in refrigeration, if we look at, there are many HFOs today. So we have HFOs which are R448, R449, R52, which are actually, I will say that these are not long-term refrigerants, but today they are being seen as a stopgap arrangement before the market really moves to R290. So in a way, if I look at one compressor model of refrigeration today, you will read almost 12 to 13 refrigerants on that compressor. So one compressor is fit to work with almost 12 to 13 refrigerants.
Thanks. We have got one more question here, which is for Mr. Daljit Singh ji and Madhurji. What are the form of monitoring and verification mechanisms can help in improving the energy efficiency market in cooling appliances?
Yeah, I can take and answer that. One of the mechanism I think so need to be built upon. Obviously, like BE has done a great job, and obviously looking into the energy regulations, and BE has been highly regulating it. But I think so there is no regulation on the service side, which I think so is a need of our, like, once a appliance is obviously installed, 2 months down the line, or 4 months down the line, or 1 year down the line, what is happening to that appliance, and what kind of energy efficient it is operating at, is very, very important segment. I think so that is where we as industry, as well as at the same time as from the service side and energy regulations, regulatory authorities should come together and see if we can find some solution. There are ways and means using artificial intelligence and IoT devices and all that as we move forward. But yes, I mean, which will definitely help a consumer to look into when the service is required and when is not required. From that, if we have some kind of mechanism, or some kind of monitoring mechanism over there, that will be very helpful for India as a country to save a lot of energy over here.
Thanks. Madhuji, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I think a lot of labeling programs are there for the appliances today. But if we look at today the larger systems, which are actually like the one of the areas where the focus is already there is on the chillers. But when it comes to refrigeration, I think that is the area where I think we don't have the labeling programs or any initiatives on that side. And refrigeration, if you see, it's a 24/7 application, much more energy guzzler compared to air conditioning, because air conditioners run based on the seasonal requirements, and plus air conditioners run for probably 10 to 12 hours in a day. So I think that's the area also I think we should start focusing on. I think that could be one of the points.
And there is a last question, which is, your individual views on the collaborative R&D efforts. Is any specific way forward? How we can optimize the individual R&D funds with the more collaborative efforts?
Yeah, I mean, today, if you see, I mean, there are globally, I mean, there are a lot of funds. Liquidity is not a problem. It's really how R&D is taken and how well it is promoted by the government. Today, even we have been approaching government also, how they can promote as well as encourage the R&D efforts by OEMs or by any brand or any manufacturer. Though, therefore, should be encouraged to bring more and more R&D, more and more research, as well as, as I earlier also mentioned, that we must involve the institutes like IITs, or they are brilliant institutes in India. There is no, I would say, there is ample amount of knowledge base available over here. It's all about using them and bringing the right effort over there. So government should definitely encourage and bring in some kind of schemes to promote R&D, and obviously if there is can be some fund made, some equity fund or something of that sort can be made, which do invest in brands or in R&D or promotes the R&D through the government body also can be another way to do that.
Thanks. So
Just
I
to
think
add,
the summer, yeah, sorry.
Just to add to what Daljit ji mentioned, we are working with institutes like IISC to develop the way forward for the new refrigerants. Because like if you look at refrigeration, CO2 is becoming a very very important refrigerant globally. But how to adopt that in India is very very important, because India is a market where a lot of knowledge has to be built in first to how to use these kind of refrigerants. So we are already working with institutes like IISC to promote that activity.
Thank you. So summary, I think the major important takeaway is that the R&D, the indigenous R&D suiting to Indian climate is important. When I say the climate, it's not only it's business climate plus the climate in general necessary. The skill set was the second point, which is important. Skill set is at every level is important to have the component based R&D there. And Madhurji mentioned that the tax benefit really reaching to the particular sector of the industry is the key. And whatever in the policy and the benefits are there should get reach to the each component or each technology. Where he gave the example of the control technology. So I think these are the few key elements, and Mahendraji mentioned definitely is about the trade policies to grow the local industry rather than making it specific for only allowing the import. I think with that summary, thank you very much for your time today and very useful. And I think the leadership was overall to take the mission forward of promoting the domestic manufacturing ecosystem in the country. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thanks, Mr. Mayur. Thanks.